Hello there, Mr. Fox here again. Today I'm going to be reading parts of the ice warnings and the encounter and a little bit into at least the impact of the iceberg. Now, I'm going to just speed read this, but in my way. Now, the Titanic mostly had ice warnings that day. Some was from the Nordam, some was from the Empress of Britain, some was from the La Touraine of the French line. The Empress of Britain was a Canadian Pacific liner, which her 1930s counterpart was beautiful. On Saturday, there was a dozen ice warnings received by Phillips and Bride. Now, Sunday, April 14th, it was a beautiful day to be streaming across the North Atlantic. The weather was perfectly clear and the seas were very calm, which was, I heard, different, because there were lots of icebergs that made that ripple effect. But that day was very calm seas. The outside temperature was such that as many passengers spent much of the day on the promenade decks to enjoy the sun. The air temperature wasn't overly warm, rising only to the mid-50s during the day, but for passengers coming from the winter months in the coldest climates of Europe, the temperatures was almost perfect. There was a White Star Line requirement that all liners conduct a lifeboat drill on Sunday morning after services. For reasons that will remain unknown, Captain Smith decided not to hold it. Like I said, I believe in the live stream yesterday, after the sinking of Titanic, that's what also propelled the rules to be changed about lifeboats and lifeboat drills. Lifeboat drills are mandatory right now. I mean, look at the Costa Concordia. I believe they had a lifeboat drill, and people still panicked because, you know, that's a disaster, so people are going to panic. 9 a.m. was the first ice warning received from the Coronia from the Cunard line. At 10:30 a.m. religious services were held in the first class dining saloon for all passengers, including those from the third class. At 11:40 a.m. the Nordam signaled Titanic much ice, but no position was ever given. At 12 o'clock noon, the ship's officers gathered to shoot the sun, which means try to figure out where they were at and give a bearing how much longer do they have until they reach New York. Basically, try to find out their position. They calculated the previous 24-hour distance of 546 miles. Thus, this information was posted in the first class lounge for those making bets on the previous day's progress. Around 1:40 p.m., the Baltic, eastbound from New York to Liverpool, relayed this message. Greek steamer Athenae reports passing icebergs and large quantities of field ice today of latitude 41 degrees and 51 degrees north, longitude of 49 degrees and 52 degrees west. Last night we spoke to German oil tank steamer Deutschland, not under control, short of coal, latitude 40 east 42, north longitude 55 east 11 west. Wishes to be reported to New York and other steamers. Wish you and Titanic all success. The commander. This message was handed by Captain Smith, who in turn handed it to Bruce Ismay, whom he was speaking to at the time. Ismay put the message in his pocket and said, passing it to the bridge officers. A look at the map that would have shown Titanic was headed into the center of this ice field, which has now moved south 20 or so miles from Friday's sightings. Another important part of this message was the phrase not under control, which means that the Deutschland was out of fuel and could have maneuvered to avoid a collision with another ship. In other words, it was derelict in the middle of the shipping lanes, an area where Titanic would be transitioning after dark. The Deutschland's captain wanted it to report it to all ships that he was drifting. He did not want to be run over by a passing ship in the dark. Deutschland got very lucky, because if Titanic would have sank, who knows? The Titanic may have ran into the Deutschland. Which also, there was a four-liner steamer also called the Deutschland. if y'all know any other information about other liners. At 1:45, a private message was relayed from the America through Titanic's wireless to the U.S. Hydrographic Office that the America had passed several large icebergs in the same area reported by the Athenian. This message was also not passed to the bridge. At 5:20, there was a planned change of course to be made. Dang wind. This time to bring the ship more to a western direction from its current general southwestern direction. At 5:50, Captain Smith ordered the delay course change course that the officers thought would put Titanic of any that would put Titanic south of any reported ice. At 6 o'clock, Lighthouder relieved Wild on the bridge. 6th Officer Moody shared the watch with him. At 7:15, earlier in eating dinner, Ismay had shown the Baltic ice warnings to several passengers. By this time, however, Captain Smith had retrieved it and posted it in the chart room. At 7:15, another 7:15, it was dark outside and very cold, a couple of degrees above freezing. First Officer Murdoch ordered the light trimmer Samuel Hemming to secure the forward forecastle hatch and the skylight over the crew's galley. This was to prevent light from reflecting up into the eyes into the lookouts in the crow's nest. At 7:30, a message was intercepted from the Californian to the Antillean, to Captain of the Antillean. 6:30 p.m. Latitude 42 degrees 3 north, longitude 49 degrees 9 west. 3 large bergs, 5 miles southward of us. Regards, Lord. This message was delivered by Marconi operator Bride to one of the officers on the bridge. Later, he could not remember which officer he gave the message to. This message wasn't passed on to Captain Smith either. He was down in the Alicante restaurant having dinner with the Wideners and several other first-class passengers. By this time, the ship was still steaming directly into the berg. The ice was only 50 miles away. At 7:30, Lighthouder shot the stars and gave information to Boxhall, who updated the plot. At 8 o'clock, Lighthouder demanded that Moody check the navigational skills by having him plot the estimated time Titanic would enter the ice field. Moody estimated around 11 o'clock, but Lighthouder wasn't happy with that answer. He had already figured the time to be around 9:30. Lighthouder based his assumptions on the experience and knowledge wherever the ice field was. Individual icebergs would extend out for miles in all directions. Titanic was still running 4 hours behind schedule. Had it been on time, Titanic had not been encountering ice in the dark at 9:30, but into the evening twilight around 5:30. So basically, they may have seen the iceberg, they may have not. Again, only God knows. At 8:40, Reverend Carter was conducting his evening singing down in the second-class dining saloon. The temperature continued to drop. At 8:55, Captain Smith returned to the bridge after his dinner with the Wideners engaged in Lighthouder in this conversation. Speaking about the weather, "There's not much wind," said Captain Smith. "No, it is a flat calm, as a matter of fact." "Yes, a flat calm. Quite flat." At 9 p.m., Captain Smith updated the chart to reflect at 7:30 p.m. The 7:30 p.m. position Lighthouder had taken. This should allow Smith to see the location of the ice field that Titanic had rapidly approaching. Whether he realized it or not is unclear. At 9:30 p.m., Captain Smith went to his cabin and retired for the night. Outside 9:30, Lighthouder sent another message to the crow's nest to keep a sharp lookout for ice. At 9:40, message received by Jack Phillips in the wireless room. From the Meseba to Titanic. 42 degrees north, 41 degrees, 25 degrees north. Yeah, you know what? Yeah. Saw much heavy packs of ice and greater numbers of large icebergs, also ice fields. Weather good and clear. This message was sadly not given to the bridge. At 10 p.m., Murdoch replaced Lighthauler on the bridge for the next 4-hour watch. Before returning to his cabin to sleep, Lighthauler made his rounds throughout the ship. He observed that the temperature was continuing to drop and was now 32 degrees. Down in the first class lounge, he found many of the passengers listening to Wallace Hartley. But sadly, he was engaged, and he was going to New York, I believe, to get married. Sadly, if you all have heard the story, sadly, he didn't make it. That's sad. I can't even imagine. Also at 10, high up in the crow's nest, lookouts Frederick Lee and Reginald Lee replaced George Simmons and Archie Jewell. Word passed to Fleet and Lee to watch for the birds. I'm going to skip a little bit to 10:30. Before leaving the bridge of the Californian, Captain Lord thought he saw a light approaching from the south, but it was too far away. Third Officer Charles V. Groves thought it was a light from a star. At turn 35, the Parisian warned Titanic of ice, but then his wireless system shut down for the night. At 10:55, Captain Lord, still thinking he had seen the lights of a steamer on the southeast, asked his wireless operator if there was any vessels nearby. He said only the Titanic, and Lord said that can't be the Titanic. She's a vessel close to us in size. You better contact Titanic, however, and let her know that we've stopped in ice. At 10:55, Samuel Evans sent a message of the Titanic. He sent Old Man instead of the official address, Captain Titanic. We are stopped and surrounded by ice. Sadly, though, Jack Phillips returned the message saying, shut up, I am busy working Cape Race. After that, Cyril Evans got offended and he shut down the wireless system for the night and went to bed. At 11:35, high up in the crow's nest, lookouts Flea and Lee were bitterly cold, and they were looking toward to be relieved in 25 minutes. Then off in the horizon, in the distance, directly ahead of the detective with a slight haze on the horizon. Both men strained to see what it was in the mist. After several crucial minutes of them trying to figure out what it was, binoculars at this time would have been great use. Because Tony Blair, who was replaced as first officer, left the ship. And he took the key with him. That's where the binoculars was, so they couldn't get him out. At 11:40 p.m., still staring into the mist, Fleet saw something. His reflexes took over. He grabbed the cord for the crow's nest 16-inch warning belt and gave it 3 sharp tugs. He grabbed the phone, connecting the crow's nest to the phone on the starboard side of the bridge, and urgently rang its bell. 6th Officer Rudy picked it up. The brief conversation might have chilled his blood. "Are you there?" shouted Fleet. "Yes, sir. What do you see?" "Iceberg! Right ahead!" "Thank you." Disaster would strike Titanic in less than 30 seconds. And that is basically the skip of this chapter. Tomorrow is when disaster strikes, or when disaster happens, where 1,500 people, almost 1,500 people lose their lives in the icy Atlantic. I don't know if we'll be live streaming it tomorrow or not. It really depends on what happens. I'm hoping to live stream it, but I'm also hoping to go to church. So, whatever happens, I will let you guys know. If I decide to live stream it, I will schedule it. So it'll give you guys a chance to get ready for the live stream. I'll let you know I'll probably let you guys know later tonight. I need to talk to my fiance about it. So until then, Godspeed, and also help save the United States. Go to the SHUnitedStatesConservancy.org to place your money and help saving this ship. Bye!